What's going on, Needs to Know Podcast family? We are back with another episode. Thank y'all for joining us.
What's up, y'all? How we doing, man?
Doing all right. Seen better days.
For sure.
Have had better news to give.
Yeah, man.
And I'm sure people that's listening probably have had better news to receive, but it's not the end of the world. And yeah, I think this is just one of those episodes, one of those moments where we got to be real with ourselves, with the people that have supported us, the audience, and with each other.
Yeah, facts. Most importantly.
So this episode is pretty special because we didn't come with an outline.
We got nothing, y'all.
We didn't come with any pre-planned notes, any pre-planned conversations for the most part. But it seems like we're at a crossroads right now, personally, professionally.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to have to take some time away.
Yeah.
And not really have a clear outlook on what the future looks like.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. Right now, indefinitely, we really don't know what the course of the podcast is looking like. And SaVon, let's just be real. Shit is expensive.
That's one aspect.
That's one. Yeah, we could go through all of them because I don't think people really understand what this shit takes. You know, especially when you have so many other things in your life, in your personal life, family, money, career, work, etc. So one thing on the list being it's getting harder and harder to afford keeping the lights on here, to be quite frank with you guys.
Well, let's give them a little bit of insight, Alex.
Yeah,
how about that? Except we're going to be transparent, let's be transparent.
We've paid for everything from the jump.
So obviously anybody who's been tapping in with us, we've been an independent podcast for the beginning and always have been.
Since its inception.
Since the inception of the podcast, Alex and I came together, and every single thing that has happened with the podcast has been funded from us until we got to a point where the business and the podcast was making its own money.
Yeah.
And again, I do want to just highlight all of the supporters, all of the listeners, anybody who's ever clicked, hate click, love click, all of this shit. It all matters and it all has helped. But we've been doing this for a while now. Almost close to a decade.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the biggest highs. We've seen some of the lowest lows. We've had different iterations of the podcast. We've been in different studios. We've rented studios. We've bought studios. We've rented equipment. We've bought equipment, right? We've had amazing people along the way.
Different
but
variations.
I think right now, coming into this year, we made last year. So coming into this year, we made over 6 figures.
Yep.
We made, I want to say, close to last year.
In totality?
As a podcast.
Put everything together.
From ads. If anybody, again, go back and listen. We had maybe 3 to 6 ads per episode.
Remember them Burger King commercials? I mean, McDonald's.
Be respectful of the people that held us down.
Shout out to McDonald's.
It was McDonald's. It was Underdog. It was Walmart. It was Hulu.
Yep.
It was Hennessy. It was Trojan condoms. It was M&M's. It was a lot of the big brands.
DEI initiatives.
And even before we get to DEI, I just want to kind of paint a full picture for people.
Yeah.
And walk them down how we kind of got here. And again, there's different layers, but let's just start with the financial component, in my opinion. So we came into this year making, I'll say, close to $1,000 last year. And the year before that, we probably $1,000. So things were great. Money was amazing. We got hit with some news where we had to find a new studio home. We pivoted. In that pivot, we got an opportunity to purchase a studio.
Yep. We needed somewhere to record.
And not only did we need somewhere to record, but we weighed out all the pros and cons of what it would look like going to another studio to rent, right?
And the cost of that.
The average cost of a full-scale production for a single episode of a podcast or a single session of a podcast in New York, right? In New York City, I should say, was close to $1,000 per episode.
I know that may sound like a joke to a lot of you guys out there, but it's kind of the thinking as to what we did when opening this studio, right? Just knowing the cost of how expensive it is elsewhere. But he's not lying. It's pretty close to that, if not over.
Alex and I, we looked at all of the studios before we purchased the studio. Shout out to Mandy. She helped us, obviously. But before we decided to purchase not only, the equipment within the studio, but also, take over the lease for the studio, those kind of things, or whatever it is. I'm not going to get into the weeds. But we looked everywhere and said, hey, Alex, if we want to continue to produce at the level that we are, this is how much it's going to cost at each and every single studio that we could possibly find in let me not say that, in New York City.
Yeah.
So we looked at some of the studios in Manhattan. You know, a lot of your favorite podcasters go to these studios. So we said, hey, why not look into this? We looked at the cost. It just didn't make sense for us at that time.
Mortgage costs.
Exactly. We are a weekly podcast, and maybe that is an issue that we should have been addressed. Maybe we shouldn't have been a weekly podcast. Maybe we should have been a lot more efficient. And instead of trying to remake the wheel, just remake our wheel.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was tough because at the time we really didn't know how to do it because we're a music culture podcast and things change so quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Music culture, music commentary. So that's the first course of action, or that was probably the first. I don't even want to call it a mistake because it's not a mistake. You learn from these things.
Learn in real time.
It's you know, the first step of many, how we got here, I should say. We took over the studio. We purchased all of the equipment. We got several cameras. Not only did we do that, we also renovated. We also made improvements to the space.
Big renovations.
Because when you do take over a studio, or when you do have a studio, you want people to be able to come in here and feel good about themselves.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of people who may not have been in these studios, but there's a lot of people who were in the studio prior to us taking it over. And it's undeniable that you can see the improvements. It's undeniable that you can see the upgrades, you know. And again, it's no knock to Mandy because this shit is hard, running the studio.
It's very difficult. Running
different businesses, managing engineers, the equipment. Our first 3 months of taking over the studio, our HVAC went out.
No exaggeration.
The second month, and mind you, this is almost year to the date. We took over the studio in October of last year. The winter came, and we had no heat.
No exaggeration. Like, people were coming to record.
And we had space heaters to try to make sure that they weren't fucking dying.
For
right?
real, no bullshit.
So that was the first major, like, okay, cool, big hiccup. We had to take care of the HVAC. HVAC cost close to 4 bands.
Yeah.
Right.
I think in that same month, we got hit with the gate, right?
Yep.
We had the gate issue.
Then the gate, security. The gate issue, which was another few $1,000s, had to take care of that. Again, this is Alex and SaVon, fully independent, using the podcast funds to also run the business of the studio. We tried to, change the prices of certain things, and I'm not going to get into all the weeds, but when you have a business and you need the website to properly work, and you got to redesign it, and you try to make plans and budgets and strategies on what makes sense for you as a business owner, what makes sense for a consumer. I will say one of my blind spots is I do try to take into consideration just people that create and want to do a podcast. And so the price point was important to me. How can we make this valuable for somebody who necessarily can't afford the average $800 to $1,000 per session, right?
Especially in New York.
So if you take a look on our website, you'll see the average cost for a 2-hour booking, 2-hour minimum to book here. And the only reason we have a 2-hour minimum booking is because our engineers come in an hour early to set up.
Exactly.
So if you book at 1 p.m., our engineers are here at 12 p.m. to make sure by the time you sit down on these seats,
you're good to go.
You are good to go.
Yep.
We don't want to play with people's time. We want to be efficient. And so for that reason, we have a 2-hour minimum booking because we got to make it, beneficial to the people that work here. I can't ask them to come here for an hour of their time.
They have lives as well.
They have lives.
Bills.
They got bills.
Everything. Yeah.
They got girlfriends, responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Some of them live far. Some of them take, you know what I'm saying? Everybody has their own thing. So trying to be mindful of the people that work here, trying to be mindful of the health of the business, trying to be mindful of the customer, the people who want to come here and record and create their podcast.
Right.
And trying to make that balance of what's affordable and what's logistical and what is doable, right? So if you look on the website, we probably have the cheapest prices for all that you get here on, again, just a 2-hour booking, right? It goes up, but it's about $400 for 2 hours to book here. And
that's in the Studio A. We have a Studio B. It's also even a bit cheaper.
Yeah, Studio B a lot cheaper, but most people come in for Studio A.
Facts.
And you get full production, right? We aren't charging, per camera, per angle, for the audio stems. If you record here and you bring a thumb drive, a hard drive, a SSD card, you get it and you walk out with every single thing you do, something that was not industry standard from what we did, our research. Again, also, I want to highlight our guy, he's in the shadows.
Killer.
I don't know if he wants to be put in this, but he's our guy. He knows what he does, and he's been a massive part of making all of this shit move.
Great point guard.
Quarterback for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, the studio was the first sign to me, and Alex, please feel free to pick up wherever you want. Where it's like, all right, we either gonna bend a break.
Yeah, because I remember at that time it was critical for us because we needed somewhere consistently to record. We wanted somewhere that we had our own set, where we felt comfortable. So really, to what you're saying, it made a bunch of sense at the time, right? And then most importantly, we could help other people. Personally, that always felt good, right? Like other people in the community could come here, kind of get a cheaper offer, right? But not have to come out of pocket as much. And
also not, of course, you wanting to help other people, but it just makes sense to invest in something that could also pay for itself.
Absolutely, which is done as well.
Yeah. Which, was in mind, but not necessarily factoring in that it would have to pay for two businesses, the podcast and the studio itself.
Exactly, right. Because initially we were getting money separately, right? We get money from the podcast itself, and then also when people came to book here. I think earlier we had mentioned DEI quickly. I think part of the reason as to why we had such a great year prior is because of a lot of the ads we were receiving. Unfortunately, that slowed down for us, especially after a certain someone was elected. So I think that personally for me, when you said it was a turning point, I remember that being sort of like the internal turning point for me, like, damn, like this is really holding down a lot for us right now. And hopefully we can keep it coming in at that rate. Unfortunately, that slowed down tremendously. And it really hurted us. It really hurt us, excuse me, yeah.
So yeah, Alex mentions DEI. So coming into this year again, we're new to this shit. We are a bit green, as experienced as we are, as experienced as I like to think that, I am. Some things are new, and one of those things and things that you hear, especially is people who are self-employed. You can't look at last year and always expect to make the same amount or more the next year.
Exactly.
I think in a traditional setting, when you have a 9 to 5 and you've been at a place for a certain amount of time, that expectation is pretty realistic of, hey, I've been here for 10 years. I should be making more than I was the year before, or at least 2 years, whatever. But when you're in this entrepreneurial space, it doesn't work like that.
Every month is different.
This year was a harsh reality of understanding that and facing that in real time. Alex mentioned the DEI situation. This is information that we had to hunt down. Kieran and I, sorry, I just said your name. If you want to bleep it, go for it. But Kieran and I, we were scrambling at the top of this year because we realized that, hey, the money is slowing up and it's no longer a net 30. The ad agency we was working with, it wasn't a net 30, it wasn't a net 60. They didn't push it to net 90.
Yep.
And then after that net 90, we still had to track down some of these payments. So it wasn't like it was, hey, on the 90th day or of that week, we're going to give you the money that we owed, that we agreed to.
Yeah, very frustrating.
It wasn't like that at all. But let me actually go back to last year as to why we were able to make so much money. Obviously, we do have an audience. We do have people who care. We do have a following. And that's what allowed us to broach the conversations of the type of money we was making.
Yep.
We signed these agreements. They agreed to it. We agreed to it. Everybody's happy. And we got paid, right? It was pretty simple. Every other day, every other week, I was getting the contract sent to my email to address it. And hey, here we go. Business is booming.
Felt good.
Coming into this year, we noticed that it slowed down and we really didn't know why. And so we started, reaching out to different creators in the space. We started reaching out to the ad agencies. We started doing our own information, and it's information that's not widely spread. But it's information that I've passed along to anybody who's wanted to get into podcasting. All of my peers was like, hey, what's going on with your business? Because everything looks amazing on the outside with the studio, with all the success and the guests and the beautiful part of it. But the reality is the DEI affected us directly.
It definitely did. It definitely did.
What DEI is, for anybody who doesn't know, DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion. So a DEI program is basically a plan by a company, school, or organization to welcome different people, give fair opportunities, and make sure everyone can participate. According to ChatGPT, why many organizations saying they're stop or rewriting their DEI programs, there are several reasons, often overlapping. Here are the big ones. Legal pressures. Some federal and state rules have changed, and organizations feel that certain types of DEI efforts could raise legal risk. Political shift in businesses. All right, I'm not going to go through all of this, but you understand what DEI is.
Yeah.
DEI was discontinued.
Yeah. After
on a federal level.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the brands that I had mentioned earlier, the McDonald's, the Walmarts, the Hulus, the Magnums, all of it, they no longer had to. They were not obligated to invest or work
put money aside for
with, Black creators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that directly affected us to where the agency that we work with no longer was receiving the money from those companies.
Yep.
And that company no longer, or our ad agency no longer felt like they could or had the money to spend with us in the same way that they were before.
Yeah.
Didn't just affect us, but it affected everybody.
Now you're so right. And we were so confused, right? Because we're like, we had a certain amount of ads coming in per month. And then when we kind of got the understanding of what was changing, right, and what was removed, you start to realize how things on the federal level can affect you here at the ground level. So yeah, that was a very, very big part of it. And we've had to kind of just keep it pushing, right? Trying to keep costs afloat, trying to make sure that there's certain money in the accounts to pay for the things that we have to pay for, right? Employees got to get paid. Certain back end responsibilities need to be paid. So after that, we really got a gauge of maybe how the next few months going into the next year would probably look, and kind of led us to where we are right now.
Yeah. So I think that's the financial
side
aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then there's, I think, another layer to it. Alex, do you have any layers that you want to kind of?
Yeah. Again, SaVon and I have been doing this for so long, and we've had so many iterations of this show. And as you know, Reggie left us. Mm-hmm. So that kind of left us in a weird space, right? Like when we had Reggie in the fold, we kind of knew in the direction what we wanted to do. Even how you could be marketed, promoted with the three of us was just different than the two of us, right? I mean, we're handsome guys, but but just to have a woman's spokesman, right, on certain matters, topics, it really did make the podcast more diverse. Reggie isn't the first woman that we had on this podcast. We've also had Steph Styles. Shout out to Steph Styles. And again, it probably put us in a weird space, creatively, internally, personally. Still got a lot of love for Reggie, but just in terms of the business, we just kind of had to figure out, how do we reshape? How do we move forward, right? What do we do next, right? And that coupled with the financial side has made the outlook just a bit harder.
What was the space that put you in?
It put me into I got to step back a little bit and look at life, right? You start to realize that your goals may differ from other people, and that's okay. However, you got to know how to pick up from that point and moment and realize that this is what life is about, right? Like you might start some with people you really love, and then it might change, but you still got to live your life. They still got to live their lives, and you still have to learn how to move forward from that position. So personally, that's kind of where it left me. Where to leave you?
So I'll definitely get to it, but even before we go there, I'm glad you transitioned into the Reggie phase, because I do just want to take it over the last year.
Right.
Coming into this year, it was three of us, which a lot of y'all knew. We typically like to take the last 2 to 3 weeks of December to kind of game plan for the next year.
Right.
So us taking a holiday break is pretty standard, which is something that we're going to do. It's just a matter of what it looks like when we do it this time. But last year we did the same. And one of the things that I've been pushing for a very long time is trying to incorporate more content, 2 more evergreen content. And so if you've been rocking with us, you've seen at the top of this year, we began doing our Curated Chaos,
Yep.
which was a podcast, kind of a spin-off series to what it is that we're doing, where we would take hip-hop culture in general and just kind of create, trivia out of it, try to make content geared towards social and just things that are reusable, right? I kind of felt like we were running on a hamster wheel where we would do amazing things, but it's like after the news cycle goes away,
Gotta do it again.
you got to just do it again. And I was
Yeah.
trying to move away from that coming into this year. It was a really big emphasis, again, in the lab, coming in on 5-6 days a week, not even. I'll say 4 to 5 days a week sometimes, just studying, watching other podcasts, watching the shows that are, viral, watching what works for them, incorporating certain segments that they do, including it in ours, just all of it. And we experimented with it for a while, but that was something that, I spent a lot of time looking into and trying to shape shift, and it was getting better. We didn't have to record it weekly. We would probably take a day or 2 days out of the month to record about 3 to 4 episodes. And it was timeless content. And I think the more that we had worked at it, the better it would have gotten. But I think coming into this year, that was the first layer of, from a content standpoint, of like, all right, this is a shift. This is a shift. And it was the three of us, and the three of us had our approach to the content. And I thought it was a way where we could still give our core audience or our main audience the current events, which is in the personality and the dynamic and, whatever we did that made us successful. We could still give them that, but we could also give them content where it's like we're working smarter and not harder.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was probably the first quarter of the year. And then going into Q2, the very beginning of Q2, like Alex said, we lost Reggie. Now, losing Reggie obviously put some strains on us, not from a financial standpoint, but just from a direction standpoint.
Yeah.
One, because it was sudden. To my knowledge, I had no idea that it was something that was going to happen or could potentially happen. And maybe that was ignorant on my end because, Reggie had expressed, hey, there's some things that, I just would like to do different. I would like you, SaVon, in particular, to do different. And I didn't. Just to be honest, whether it was my ego, whether it was me doing it for the sake of content, all of this was all on air as well. Like, this is nothing like behind the scenes. It was some of the ways that I would carry myself and conduct myself on air that she wasn't fully comfortable with and cool with. And I didn't really respect her boundary in that way, right? I would still say things for shock value. I would still say things in the sake of entertainment, in the sake of potting, because I knew once the cameras went off, I'm like, all right, cool. We all know each other's intent. Like, we know who we are. So I thought.
Right.
That was, that was my biggest misstep, I believe, throughout the whole situation. But I think not having the luxury of knowing that, hey, it feels like the rug is being pulled from underneath us. We didn't have time to prepare. I don't know if you had conversations on the side with her about her maybe wanting to leave.
No, but if anything, and probably the audience could attest to this, Reggie always led with how she wants a peaceful life, right? And again, like, we came into this shit a little bit differently, right? Like, a little bit. She's always been hungry in what she's done, but we've always had to rush and pick it up, right? In terms of how we came into this shit with Joe, etc. Even certain jobs that we've taken before then. Reggie's whole thing was always predicated around, yo, I love y'all, but I like a peaceful life. I'm okay with a peaceful life, and that's okay, right? Again, back to like understanding that you can love people and they still be different from you. Maybe something we should have both paid attention to, right? Like, in terms of, okay, we really need to watch what is being said here or what's being done here, because again, Reggie's about peace. So if she finds something that might take a little bit of that peace away, she's probably gonna end up and go. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like when I sort of like realized, like, okay, cool. You got to remember who she is as a person, right? Like, she doesn't look at content the way we look at content, right? We come from different backgrounds and this shit, So
For sure.
Yeah.
But needless to say, the decision that she made, which was, hey, I'm going to step away from podcasting, step away from this podcast in particular. It had affected our lives collectively. you, myself, Kieran. And again, we just didn't have any warning. We want people to do what it is that they want to do in life, whatever is going to make them happy. Like, I'm not trying to take nobody's happiness away at the expense of whatever my master plan is.
Right.
I'm not trying to see nobody depressed or upset or resentful. Like, that's just not on my spirit, right? I don't want anybody to feel like that. But what I did want just was more of some notice would have helped. Knowing.
I think it was something for her too.
And maybe it was, right? And maybe it was.
Like, I think she came to a point where she was like, you know what, maybe I could do it. And then you might just wake up one day and you're like, you know what, it's not sitting well with my spirit, you know?
Well, that decision, this is no hard feelings. Like in this thing called life, like I've learned to respect people's decision, and you know, once you remove your emotion from it, I'm able to think clearly with a clear head. And again, I take accountability because I know I was probably the driving force. Now, had she had other factors, maybe if the commute was a factor, right? Maybe, you know, I had made some changes in my life as far as, and I don't know if that was something where now you guys may have felt pressured to do something similar.
Right.
And so it could have been a lot of different factors. I truly don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
A lot of people have asked, like, I truly don't know beyond the things that I did directly, which is say some words on air, on camera, with the intent of them being edited out. Her saying, hey, I'm really not feeling that. Me not honoring that. Me not respecting that. And then she left. That's how I feel. It could be other factors, right? Again, people want to grow. She always said, hey, I don't want to be a podcaster for life. That's cool. That's all I got.
Same thing.
Am I cool there? Like, am I?
No, absolutely. Yeah, we found out when we found out.
Okay,
for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
So that happens, and now we gotta adjust. Now we gotta pivot.
Yeah, quickly.
Very, very quickly. In real time. Something that Alex and I have always done, and I think at that time, you know, he probably started, and please let me know if I'm wrong, but you probably started looking at things differently, probably started looking at me differently, probably started looking at everything in a different light.
Right.
As did I. I started looking at everything completely different too.
Yeah, and we spoke.
Yeah.
We definitely had a long conversation. So this isn't things that just have been harbored and then SaVon and I haven't spoken, right? If anything at the time, it was temporary with me, right? Because I love this as a trio. So that's for anybody. If she would have done something to you, I'd have been upset, or somebody would have done something vice versa, right? It's just, I just hated to see the trio not in the same light as we were. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, you want to speak to that trio? Or do we just kind of want to keep it going?
Yeah, no, what specifically? Yeah.
So I do love the idea of it.
Okay.
And I've always loved the idea of it. And I feel like, you know, as far as us getting along, we got along great, to my knowledge at least. But I think because people see us on a weekly basis, and because we were meeting on a weekly basis, and, you know, we've done the mixers, and, you know, the marketing of the podcast was the three of us, and, you know, the chemistry was so strong that I think it puts up this illusion of friendship, in my opinion. And I think when she did decide to leave, and again, I'm not mad at her. I want her to be happy. I want anybody to be happy in their career and in their life. Like, I do want to emphasize that. But when she did leave, in the way that she did leave, and even the way that I carried myself, it made me question friendship and the role that friendship plays in this podcast.
Gotcha.
Which I think I tried to believe, or I did believe at some point, but I think the friendship aspect and the component of this podcast was more so an illusion than it was something to kind of stand on.
You know, it's funny you say that, man. I don't know if it was necessarily an illusion or just growing up. And I'll speak personally, man. In my adulthood, I hang out with the people I love and my friends way less than I had when I was in college, high school, etc. Solely because what has been just put on my plate, you know what I mean? Like, I have friends, I have boys who I love, they love me. I ain't seen them niggas in 2-3 years, right? And as you get older, how you view friendship kind of changes, right? Is it based on how frequently you see each other, or how well you understand each other? You know what I mean? So just personally speaking, you know, I can't speak for her or you. For me, it's tough when, you know, when you're Monday through Friday, you're locked in at work, you get off at a certain time, and all you want to do is eat food, take a shower, and go to bed. And then you might only have 2 more days, a Saturday and a Sunday. Then when the Saturday and Sunday come, you got to catch up with life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. You got laundry, you got family members, you got other people you got to cater to, you got things that you might have forgotten about towards, in the middle of the week. So, yeah, it gets tough. Like how you just look at friendship as you get older, because it's like, damn, man, like how frequently do I need to really, to really solidify this bond, what actually needs to be done? It starts to look different,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there is, and it's funny because we had the, I guess, the luxury of a crash course of being a part of and seeing one of the biggest podcasts break up in real time. And,
Facts.
Even me being in the room when Joe, Rory, and Maul broke up.
We were in the room.
Yes.
We were in the room.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet.
Absolutely. Why you emphasize that?
No, because we was there. You know what I'm saying? We was there. We seen this together. I want them to understand that we've been in this from the Joe shit to and it's tough, right? We're the only ones that have seen all the iterations of this podcast. We are the only ones that have always had to deal with how it's changed. And like you said, we get a crash course at that, and then we got to deal with it. And we're like, damn. Yeah. As if it wouldn't happen to us, right? Yeah, that's what I meant by it.
Got it. No. Yeah. And so even with that crash course, it never clicked to me until we were kind of in that space of, oh shit, like we just kind of need to be honest about, all right, friends and business and just where we are and outline these things. And as uncomfortable some of the conversations could have been, like they probably just should have been, right? Because now you're mixing, like, in my definition of friendship is consideration is probably at the top of the list for me. When you're friends with somebody, you just take into consideration. And there was moments, again, if somebody says, hey, fam, I'm not really feeling that. I'm not really feeling what you're doing, what you're saying. And you keep doing that as me, I continue to do that. I didn't take into consideration how she felt, right? Or how you may have felt at certain, right? Like, I just didn't take into consideration because I was acting off of the guise of friendship. Meaning, you know me, I know you. We're friends, quote unquote friends, right? That is the belief that I told myself, which is why you do it. I had equated it. One of the ways that I was able to kind of navigate myself through the Reggie departure and putting a lot of the blame on me was likening it to any type of relationship. But specifically, like in a romantic relationship, your partner, your people, they'll tell you, hey, don't do this. But you'll do it because you take the relationship for granted, right? And that's one of those things where I put on me, like maybe I took, whatever for granted because I was leaning on the guise of friendship.
Gotcha.
Right.
And you got to be careful who you joke with, right? You could joke with me with some of that shit, right? But then it's like certain people you just can't do it with. So I know that's like learning in real time, though. Yeah.
Not take on ownership of that, but going back to consideration, right? It's a two-way street. I think, I started to lose my peace a bit when I believe, again, haven't spoken to her to verify this, but the lack of consideration with the decision that she decided to make when leaving the pod, that's where I was kind of affected most.
I'll say this,
where it was abrupt.
Yeah.
And it affected a lot of people's lives in that way.
It did. It definitely did. And I want to tell the audience that's something she's also acknowledged. And who? To all of us. You remember when we first spoke? When everybody was crying? Oh, yeah. You remember?
No, I'm listening to him.
Oh, no, I thought you forgot. I remember when we originally spoke about this, it was SaVon, myself, and Reggie were all on a call.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Okay.
And that call, you could tell it was very difficult for her.
Yeah, not an easy decision.
Not at all. So much so when we picked up the phone to answer, I was like, hey, Reggie, she starts bawling a little bit. Yeah. You could kind of feel the emotion through the phone of about how this decision is affecting her and how she's been thinking about it. And like I said, you could just see a person who probably was trying their hardest with something and then probably reached their point where they're like, you know what? I don't know if I could do this right now. So I just wanted to let them know and just to remind you, like initially you could tell it didn't look like the easiest decision for her. Yeah, it didn't look like she just picked up the phone and was like, all right, y'all.
Oh, absolutely.
Y'all niggas ain't listening. It's a wrap.
I don't think she would say niggas.
No, she wouldn't say that either. She wouldn't say that either. I can't put that on her jacket. But yeah, just originally you could tell like it was tough. It was tough for everybody.
No, for sure. Definitely tough, but cool. We closed that. The decisions are, hey, Alex, it's me, you at the time. Pierre was featured on the pod heavy. So it's me, you, Pierre.
Facts.
at my perspective, she was kind of the glue of the pod and allowed us to kind of find these different pockets. So now we remove her. Now it's just me, you, and then Pierre. He was off mic doing like the Parks role. But it just felt too much like a boys club to me. It felt like, we were talking in the echo chamber. And so I came to you, I said, hey man, I know we love Pierre, but I think we may have to find our rhythm. You was like, you know what, I'm with you. You, Pierre, and Q got your own show, spinoff show here on the network. So I actually want to do, never mind. But you, Q, and Pierre, y'all were creating content still. So when I was like, hey, maybe we just lock in with me and you and, no longer have Pierre here every week, like we can re-find our chemistry. Because the podcast and shit and, going through all of these things and having a third voice, right? Like a third of what we were doing was gone. So now it's just me and you. We gotta figure out how to dance. It out. We gotta dance again. I gotta get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
we spoke about this.
We did. Yes, those first few episodes were tough. They were tough because, again, we relied on a third voice and even a fourth voice with Pierre, and we didn't have those two, and now it's just me and you, and we still trying to be that dynamic, conversation and have these moments and be able to joke, whatever. We were still trying to figure it out. It was tough.
Yeah, OD.
Very tough.
OD.
But we got through it. Yep. We got through it. And then we came up with the concept of, hey, let's invite our friends on. People
rotational
who
seats.
Have been on the pod, people who haven't been that we wanted to have on the pod.
Yeah.
I think just another perspective, right? When you have three main co-hosts, it's kind of tricky to have guests on the pod because now you got to lend it to 4 mics. And then if Pierre's here, that's a 5th. So it kind of got tricky to where we steered away from guests unless it was like a one-off. But then we was like, you know what? Let's bring on some people we really want to kick it with, people we're familiar with, people who have dope ideas, who add to the show, who can challenge us in different ways. Cool. We had about half a dozen names. We called them up and salute to all of them for pulling up.
Thank y'all, man.
Thank you, Nyla.
Thank y'all, Nyla.
Thank you, Yazzie. Thank you, Eden.
Q.
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Q.
Yeah.
If I'm missing anybody, just thank everybody who was like, you know what, when we came to you guys and we said, hey, this is this next phase of the podcast where we want to have, reoccurring voices on the pod. Are you willing to be there if we schedule ahead enough of time? And all of them, for the most part, agreed and showed up every single time. So I do want to say thank y'all because y'all don't know how much that meant in those moments.
Real talk. It was good to have that energy in the room for sure. And it was some really good episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Made for some really good episodes.
Absolutely. So we have all these people who are down and willing to record with us. Yeah. And then, again, me just going back and Alex, like, I'm only just talking from my POV. So
I
when
get
I
it.
say
You're fine.
me, like,
you're fine.
So again, coming into this year, I knew with all of these things changing and the landscape changing and streamers doing their thing, the Kai Sinats, obviously the people in our field, a lot of y'all tapped in with us through the Joe Budden pod. So Joe's pod, Rory and Maul's pod, like our contemporaries, even looking elsewhere, it almost became standard to put out 2 episodes a week.
Everybody was doing it.
Everybody was doing it. It made
and it felt
sense.
like we were getting behind on certain content and topics. That's what stood out to me as well. Like, damn, we got to wait a whole nother 7 days to get back in the studio and we'll talk about it. And now that content is old. So we're like, you know what? It might need to be time to pivot to twice a week.
So now we're battling, just the news cycle. Now we're battling the news cycle. Now we're battling the way that the consumer is, digesting content, the rate that they're digesting content, what they're digesting, right? Yeah. Who they're going to get these things. And then also going back to the ad conversation, you would think if you're getting X amount of downloads on a weekly basis, if you double it, you should, in theory, double the number. So everything was leading towards, hey, let's get back to dropping twice a week. We were doing it at the top of the year. Yeah. Although we weren't coming in the studio twice a week, we were still putting out content because Curated Chaos was coming out in addition to our main episode. So getting back to releasing content twice a week was the goal. Now we don't have to work around 3 people's schedule. We only have to work around 2. So came to the table and said, hey, let's do Tuesday nights, which has been our staple day of recording for like the last 2 or 3 years, ever since we left Joe, right? Because before...
I think we always... No, right?
No, we was working with Joe on Tuesday nights. We used to record on Wednesdays.
Yeah, we used to record and then drop on Thursdays. Yeah, I was working with Joe.
That was really difficult. So then we started doing Tuesdays, drop on Thursdays. Yep. And so we kept our Tuesdays. And then we said, hey, you know what? Saturday. Let's do it. It just made the most sense from a logistical standpoint.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't
Time.
know, I feel like I've said this before. I live an hour away without traffic.
Yeah.
Most days I'm fighting traffic to get here. So
Hour and change.
an hour and
20,
change to
30.
get here. So
Yeah.
we had to just see what made the most sense. Alex worked full-time job in Manhattan. Very difficult to kind of get back and forth and then go to Long Island. So we're trying to work all these things out in real time, make the sacrifices required. And so we get to around Q3.
Yeah.
Is when we're like, you know what, let's up it. We make the announcement. We're going to be dropping 3 episodes a week, one exclusively, one on our regular day at Thursday, and then another one on Monday, which we were going to record on Saturday. So now we get into the zone of, okay, here we are.
Yeah, like, okay, we've got some structure now, right? Kind of got a scheduling. Show some more love to the Patreon community as well, right? Because that's something we took a hit on too when we brought back Curated Chaos. We weren't really doing as much Patreon. So in our mind, we're like, all right, cool. Giving them a Patreon episode, 2 different types of content a week. Maybe we're on a stride here.
I'm glad you mentioned Patreon.
Yeah.
Because we've done a piss poor job at managing our Patreon.
Oh, sorry, y'all. For years, too.
It's been a yearly thing.
Like before, I remember we even pivoted to recording at home. So much so we were like, you know what? We could be at home and give them content.
Yeah.
You know, let's attempt that. We've tried things, but we haven't really found anything that really stuck consistently enough.
Why do you think?
Time, honestly, right? Like I think if we don't have as much real responsibilities in our actual personal lives, then you could just take any day throughout the week because you don't have to deal with the pressures of work, finances, and your paycheck. You can just come up in here and just be a content creator. And then if you don't have work the next day, you could do it again, right? Like time has always been something we used to joke the 9-to-5 pod. That shit is real fucking life, right? All 3 of us at the time were working. And yeah, bro, I would say that because we've always just talked. We know how to talk, right? It's that time.
I would say Patreon, before we get back to the twice a week scenario.
Sure, yeah.
But I would say Patreon, the reason I say we did a piss poor job at managing that is, one, I think time is a factor. But I think when you own a studio, it's really no excuse where we can't be here a little bit more.
Right.
But outside of time, I think we as hosts never poured into the Patreon community in the way that we should have, in a way that it requires to show appreciation for the people who are actually literally paying us for, you know, the content and for the community and for the connection. Right?
Yeah, we should have believed in Patreon more because at the time, I'll speak personally, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how many people are willing to consistently pay us each month at a certain rate with everything else that they had going on in their lives? And that's just my fault. That's just something I think about internally, right? I always think about how hard and difficult the times are. I'm sorry, that's just me. I come from being pop. So a lot of my stuff is based in that shit, just on a realistic level. Like, okay, cool. All these people got car notes. They got other pieces of content they paying for. They got HBO. They got Disney Plus. They got babysitters. All that shit. So for me at the time, I think it was just difficult for me to like understand. Like, all right, cool. Maybe no. People will show up for you. People might show up for you. You know, you might have to figure out a price, and you might have to release content that really invokes them to really continue to pay each month. But people are willing to do it. But I do wish it was something we tried to do earlier, you know, and I think that was personally just how I viewed it. Like, it's tough.
Yeah. And again, from my point of view, I just feel like, you know, we just could have been more active.
Facts.
I know personally I could have been more active.
Facts.
I could have engaged with the people who were in there.
Same.
You know, could have been more creative. You know?
Let me, not to cut you off too. Like Patreon content at the time always felt like very produced. Right? Like we weren't looking at Patreon content like run and gun, pick up your phone, record where you're at real quick. Because for the most part, our peers, our contemporaries, they're actual pieces of content, right? Whether they be in studio or at some real life event and they upload it to Patreon, or maybe they're speaking to someone that we've never heard before and they put it on Patreon. So for me at the time, it was like, okay, maybe they need to be super produced to get people to sign up and actually spend money, right? Like for me, it was like, I don't know if a person would want to just pay, whether it be $12.99 a month, $10.99 a month, and it's a bunch of clips from my phone. You know what I mean? Again, maybe not a good way to look at it. I'm sure there's people killing on there right now just from uploading from their phone. but just from a personal standpoint. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just think again, those are people who want to hear from us, who could hear from us. Like,
Absolutely.
I think at some point we lost our vision, or we lost sight of like just who we are. And what I mean by that is like we should be more in touch with the people. We should talk to the people. We should connect with the people who are investing in us literally. And I feel like we neglected that. I feel like at some point we tried to, but it's one of those things like, you know, if everybody ain't doing it, maybe now it's a domino effect. Now one person's not doing it. Now the other person ain't doing it. And so now it just becomes an infection of now nobody really wants to do it because, you know, we weren't doing it collectively.
Right.
And I think that was a misstep when it came to Patreon. Our approach to Patreon, thinking that we can take the Joe Budden podcast, Rory and Maul podcast approach.
I don't think we took their approach.
Podcast. I think we did for sure.
How?
We did exactly what they did.
No, I think we're closer to. I think we're closer to it right now. But I'm talking like our old Patreon days.
Okay. Well,
I'm talking about old Patreon. Yeah, because we're only talking about old Patreon, right? Like when we were trying to figure it out.
Right
now,
overall Patreon.
Oh, well,
the lifetime of Patreon, we have never done the things that I just said.
No, well, let me split it up. Right now is the closest we've been to a consistent schedule on Patreon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Before we had no consistency. It was a point we weren't even putting out Patreon episodes.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think this is the time we've done it. But you're right. Before, we weren't copying Joe Rory. We weren't really seeing the potential in it. You know what I mean? So
we saw the potential. We didn't act on the potential. We saw the potential.
Yeah, but
because like
tough.
you said, we were in those rooms with Joe. We saw when Joe first launched Patreon and when that whole uncomfortable exchange, we know what it did at that time. So we always known the potential. We just didn't do what we needed to do.
I hear you, but I'll speak more personally. Joe is Joe Budden. You're going to get X amount of people that are going to sign up for Joe. Joe has been vlogging before stream was even a thing. He was streaming before stream was even a thing. So what I mean in potential is, at the time, I saw Joe's potential because I saw his numbers. I knew his audience. I knew our audience at the time, right? So it's like, okay, cool. We should feed them. But the reason why I couldn't see it in the same aspect as Joe is because we're not Joe.
No, of course. I'm not.
No, we got to say these things.
But
we gotta say these things.
I don't want to just lean on that because no, we never said we were those guys. But to say that we didn't see it, I don't think is correct, because at a point we were making upward of like almost 5,000 a month.
Facts.
So it's not like we didn't see what it could be at a very early stage. This was years ago.
Facts.
We haven't touched those numbers in a long time because, again, all of the changes, of course, and you know, we had to change studios and co-hosts and all of these things, right? That does play a factor. But even when we did see the potential, we never, as host, ingratiated ourselves with the people who were paying.
Absolutely.
We never took the time out to get creative, to talk to them, to touch the people in that way. And that is the misstep that I believe we've had. And now today, trying to play catch up, that's just been the theme for me of this year. We've just been trying to play catch up. We haven't really been in front of the wheel. I think the last 2 years we were always ahead of the curve. Now we are trying to follow the trends and the waves. And I think that has played a large part in why we're here, which let's go back to 2 times a week. The 2 times a week, you know, episodes, again, trying to see what the market is telling us, which, again, in theory, it sounds good. Everything sounds like it should be up. Everything, you know, but we didn't take into consideration, one, the news cycle. Recording on a Saturday means you're reporting on Monday, last week's news. You know, in some cases it works with us, but in most cases it works against us unless we have like a really big music release, which music ain't really been that lit. So it's not really much to talk about there, too crazy on Saturdays. But regardless, and then time, just not having the time, not creating the time, not being able to prepare in a way that I think a show of our magnitude should. And then going back to the very beginning, resources. You're recording more. You're asking more of your team. You're asking more of your social team, your social presence, the people that are actually in the space. You're asking more. Now we got to pay, you know, double. Everything is double now. And so these are some of the reasons that we have gotten here and having this conversation with y'all.
Yeah, man. These are some of the reasons, right? And we just wanted to come in here and be honest and vulnerable with y'all, just so you can understand like what we've been dealing with, what we got going on. SaVon and I, internally, personally, we deal with a lot when it comes to our families. I won't speak for SaVon. I don't even want to go into depth with my shit. It just be a lot. You know what I mean? So when you couple all of that together with everything that we've said here today, it just makes things super, super difficult. You know what I mean? Especially when you don't have as much money coming in as before, you know? So, yeah, man. Who, wanted to let the people know, right? Who but them?
So yeah, that's how we've gotten here for the most part.
Yeah.
And again, Alex, we've been doing this for a very long time. Not easy.
Not easy.
In any sense of the word.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I wish I didn't have to work for money. I'm being open and honest with you guys. I think a lot of our peers in this space, they can do this because they make enough from what they do. We've just never been in that position. Like we said from the jump, we've had to invest a lot of our own money into this shit. And then we got to a point where, all right, cool, maybe things could pay for themselves a little bit. But, we're content creators, we're podcasters, all the things that we love to do. And it's really hard to do when you have to work for money. Like, it shit is difficult as fuck. 'Cause like I said, you own the space, and the only obligation you have to think about is the content in the space. Man, you in this bitch every fucking day. Why not? You're knocking things out every day. Because why not, right? your money is secure. And I even brought up earlier, or just a few moments ago, we've had to take on a few more responsibilities as men in the last few years. So, yeah, man, I really wish that I could just didn't have to work. I wish I had a cash out one, like a crazy cash out, so we could just put our all into the content, and that's just not the case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Got a lot on our plate as big boys and as an adult. It's crazy.
What do you think we could have done differently to avoid this position that we're in?
It's a great question. I think we kind of said it here today. I think we really landed on everything here today. Like I said, if we didn't have particular obligations and bills, I just don't think we have certain worries, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think everybody got those.
Yeah, but everybody's looks different, right? And I'll speak personally. There's no one to help me. It's always been like that from Jump Street. I am the person in the family that everyone goes to for everything. I'm the only child. I've shared here on the podcast, I don't have a dad. So they look at me as, you know what I mean? So that's very true. But at what cost, Because then it's like, damn, you're not showing up for everything that's on your plate and for the people in your life. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, it depends and it varies. And I really, really wish that we didn't have to do that. I really do wish that I was in a position that I could have just left my job. And it's like, again, we got all these expenses and people got to get paid. And the business expenses come before we eat, right? It's always been like that. And I've never had a problem with that, honestly. I'm glad that we're able to fulfill the cost for people in their lives and to keep the lights on. That has nothing to do with me, So if anything, yeah, man, I wish I had a little bit more of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a ride, and honestly, I don't necessarily. And I do want to say this because I know there's going to be a lot of people who probably have their own opinions. How I feel about everything, that this is not a failure. I don't feel like I failed. I don't feel like, there's nothing to really be disappointed in. I think when you get to a certain point in your career, you look back and you think about the times where you fucked up some money, or you didn't invest the money the right way, or you could have been a little bit more strategic, or you could have got accountants faster or lawyers faster. You know what I'm saying? Like, This is just a part of the journey. We don't come from this industry. We don't have, there is no nepotism in this, right? Like, we didn't have the OGs or the mentors that, like, you're born into this shit. Right? Like, when I got into it, I was at a fucking warehouse in the homeless shelter working, right? Like, when you got into it, when I first remember meeting you, you was at, Adidas and T-Mobile, right?
No bullshit.
Like, you didn't necessarily...
AT&T.
Yeah, like, there is no handbook to this shit. I think if you go back and you look at our feed, you go on YouTube and you look at the episodes, or you go on Apple, Spotify, however, you just look at the history of what it is that we've done, and I think we've accomplished some dope shit. We've had people like Amanda B. We have people like Joe Budden. We've had Elliot Wilson. We've had Mero. We've had people on this podcast that when I was in those positions of working at the warehouse, working at a homeless shelter, I was listening to these people for inspiration. I was listening to these people on how do I get in these rooms. I was listening to people just inspired to get to a certain point. And I feel like, when I look at, where we are and what we've done, is a sense of you just being proud. We've won awards, not to bitch it, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't pay for those things. We've done it, right? Like, we've done an amazing job, and I don't take any of it for granted. I don't feel like we fell short in any regard. I think I could leave whatever, because I think it's indefinite. We don't know for sure, right? We're going to game plan over the next month like we always do in December. But we don't know what the future necessarily holds for that reason. But I know regardless of what happens, like, I could walk away with my head held up pretty damn high, because I know I've put everything that I possibly could. And I know we've accomplished things that, coming out of college when we first met, we had no idea that we would amass all the things that we have. Even just to be able to say, like, yo, we've owned and maintained and had a studio for the last year in the heart of the world, New York City, Brooklyn.
If anything, I'm proud of us, man. We've taken on a bunch of iterations on this pod. Shout out to everyone who's been on here: Devon Terrell, Steph Styles, Reggie, of course. And most people would have just bowed out the first time that happened. It just speaks to how motivated we were to speak our behalf, and talk on things that we wanted to talk about, how passionate we were with the topics we were passionate about, And I agree. I don't look at anything as a failure. If anything, it's life, right? Like, when you see all of the greats, they talk about where they came from, right? Eddie Murphy started off on Saturday Night Live. Is he determining his career off of that now? No, because he's done so much since then, right? But at the time, everybody was like, damn, man, like, no SNL, right? Like, that was a big thing. But it just speaks to life in this journey. Yeah. Truly.
And I believe, I believe in, my ability to, we'll
figure it out, right?
Like, this is not it. We just got to take a little pause.
Yeah.
But thank you to the audience. Yeah. Alex, thank you.
Thank you,
We've been
brother.
rocking, doing this shit for a minute.
Oh, man.
Kieran, thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Immensely. 10,000 times over.
A million.
Pierre, thank you. 10,000 times over.
Yeah, and all the wonderful engineers that record with us.
Like Alex said, every iteration, up until this point, and everybody who's listened. So I'm hopeful for the future.
Same.
We'll rewire, we'll recalibrate. Sometimes you got to take a beat, come back, game plan, look at the landscape, figure it out, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
A wise woman once told me, make the hard things easy.
Like that.
Which is one of the things that, and that wise woman, Queenie, shout out to you, who's one of our biggest supporters.
Shout out to Queenie.
Somebody who's been on the inside as of recently.
On the team, yep.
And has helped us. Mason,
big shout out to Mason, man. Mason and Queenie have been amazing.
And everybody, right? We've had so many different people who've made the podcast and gotten the podcast to this point. Crystal,
yep.
We had Crystal for a while. My siblings, they were doing timestamps. Dre, Nia, like, everybody who's just been a part of this shit, we do appreciate it. We'll figure it out, stay tuned, stay locked in. You know what I'm saying? And we'll be back soon. We'll be back, hopefully. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
We will see.
I don't fucking know. But we gave y'all niggas what we gave y'all. In the meantime, it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you.
Thank you, bro, man. I know it's been a wild journey, man. But again, something we wanted to do, so we did it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, for the last time, for a long time, it's the Need to Know podcast. What you need to know, when you need to know, on the Need to Know podcast. I don't know when we gonna be back.
See you, gang.